Why do we complicate everything? In everyday life, we often face situations that cause stress or confusion. For example, at work, a typical person receives an email from their boss with rather vague content. Instead of asking for clarification, they begin to worry, imagining negative scenarios like the boss being dissatisfied with them and the possibility of losing their job. From a simple email, they've created a major problem in their mind. For example, in relationships, a person feels anxious when their friends don't respond to messages right away. They start to think that their friends are avoiding them or that they've done something wrong. In reality, the friends are simply busy with their own lives. These situations could have been resolved simply, but we tend to complicate them, creating negative stories in our minds that don't really exist. This leads to an important question. Why do we often turn small problems into big mountains in our minds? Why do we keep making everything so serious? A large part of the reason lies in the nature of the ego, a part of the mind that always feels insecure and craves attention. For the ego, a small problem is not enough. It desires a grand challenge, an unusual suffering to tackle. The ego is never content with common pain. It wants to stand out and be recognized by solving big problems. In one way or another, the ego always wants to be in the spotlight. Therefore, it tends to complicate everything. Most of us consistently create significant problems for ourselves, even though they aren't real. Through many conversations with thousands of people about their issues, it becomes clear that the majority of the big problems we perceive don't actually exist. All problems are illusions. You've created them because without them, you feel empty. Having no problems means having nothing to do, nothing to fight for, and nothing to live for. People move from one teacher to another, from one guru to another, from one psychologist to another, from one encounter to another. Because if they don't, how can they endure the emptiness, the lack of meaning? They create problems to feel that life is a great mission, an expansion of ambitions, a race, and people must work hard to solve those problems. The ego only exists in struggle. The bigger the problem, the greater the challenge, and the more our ego grows and flourishes. Chapter 1. The mechanism of creating problems for oneself. We have created many problems, but they don't really exist. We have deceived ourselves. Okay, it's true that there's nothing serious, but there are still some minor issues, right? No, even the minor things don't exist. Everything is fabricated by us. From nothing, we create something, and from something, we create something bigger. Observe what you are doing and question if it makes sense. First, you create a problem, then you look for a way to solve it. Why do you do that? From the beginning, you shouldn't create more out of nothing. Is it because you think that only by inventing all sorts of problems does life become interesting? You don't need light, you don't need enlightenment, you don't need to be awake, and you fall into a deep void trying to fill your mind with all sorts of things. Creating problems to avoid the feeling of emptiness. Try to understand this. Do not create any problems for yourself. End the habit of creating problems to solve. The deeper you look into your own situation, the clearer it becomes that nothing terrible is happening. Gradually, the things you once thought were so serious will disappear. With patience, look within yourself, and one day you will be surprised to realize the beauty of the emptiness that quietly surrounds you. You don't need to do anything, you don't need to become anyone, you are already enough. Enlightenment is not about achieving something, it is simply being as you are naturally. When I say I have attained enlightenment, it only means that I have chosen to live according to my true nature. That is more than enough. From here, I decide not to create any more problems. I have chosen to end all the absurd juggling of the joys and sorrows of my life. Chapter 2. The bigger the problem, the bigger the ego grows. In reality, suffering and worry are just a game for us. It's a game where we hide from ourselves and then seek to find ourselves. We are on both sides of the game. You are aware of this. That's why I say you should smile. Smile broadly. Of course, I don't mean to smile aimlessly, but to smile at yourself. Only when you know you're smiling at yourself will you understand what's happening. Almost all of us live in a game. We hide, then wait to find ourselves. You can recognize your true nature right at this moment. Now, you might understand why Zen masters use a stick to hit their students. Whenever a disciple comes and says, "I want to become a Buddha," the master immediately becomes enraged. Why would a disciple say something so absurd? You are already a Buddha. If the Buddha came to me and asked how to become a Buddha, what do you think I would do? I would also hit him on the head. Why do you want to become someone else? You are already the Buddha. Don't try to create problems for yourself. By observing yourself and understanding how you have made problems seem more severe than they are, you will see everything more clearly. You will see how suddenly you elevate to the pinnacle of suffering and demand the sympathy and understanding of the world. You are an expert at creating problems. Realizing this truth, your problems will quickly disappear. You are perfectly formed, born perfect. That is the whole message. Perfection is our inner nature. Live with that perfection. Decide to live with that truth. Have we been fooling ourselves? If you are not yet tired of this game, continue, but do not ask why. You know the reason. It's very simple. The ego cannot exist in emptiness. It needs everything to fight, even to fight against its own shadow. The ego can only exist in contradiction. It is not an entity, it is a state of tension. If the tension disappears, the ego also disappears. Interestingly, most people want to live in tension without realizing it. It's not enough with your own worries and sorrows. You also try to think about humanity's problems, the world's issues, the future. You start thinking that the world should hear your advice. Then you think, what's happening in Israel, in Africa? You propose this and that solution and create a lot of problems. And then everyone is extremely excited, almost unable to sleep due to the constant wars. Our daily lives become extraordinary. Cultural and ethnic wars begin, and all of us are deeply affected. We all become problematic. Therefore, if you understand how we have created our own problems, you will gradually come closer to the awareness of the pure emptiness surrounding our lives. The essence of enlightenment lies in recognizing that light of emptiness, in renouncing forever the sorrows that have tormented you for so long. Chapter 3. Enlightenment is not about reaching a goal. If there is nothing to resolve, what would you do? You would immediately start living your real life. You would eat, rest, love, sing, in the true sense of a rich and human life. Someone without problems is like God. What would he do with his life? He doesn't need a psychiatrist nor gurus. He doesn't need to control anyone. So what is God doing? What would he do? Would he go mad like us? No, he would live normally, simply, and most importantly, without facing any problems. You will see. The more you live fully in each present moment, the fewer worries and sorrows you have. The emptiness within you will rise, and you will see that your life is worthwhile, meaningful, and you will no longer desire to become someone else. But if you do not live in the present, that rich source of energy will wither. It can never bloom. It will turn into thorns in your heart. If you force a child to sit in a corner without moving, what happens? Moments ago, they were completely happy and comfortable. Now they are tense with a flushed face. Their body writhes restlessly from having to stay still by an adult's order. All the child's energy must concentrate on the act of sitting, an act that feels purposeless, meaningless, with no room to move, nothing to bloom. Everything is repressed, frozen, rigid. The child is miserable. In a sense, they are dying. If we prohibit children from running in the garden, they will start creating problems. They begin daydreaming, inventing stories, even fighting against imagined tales. They see a big dog and become afraid, see a ghost and must fight to escape it. Now, they are drawing a senseless story, which means that all the energy that could make the child delightful has been blocked. If we know how to dance a little, sing a little, even rebel a little, then the eternal source of energy within us will soon bloom, and our problems and sorrows will gradually fade away and disappear. I insist on dancing. Dancing is happiness. All our energy focuses on the movements, and suddenly we no longer feel the weight of our heads. The energy blocked in the mind is released, opening up endless, beautiful, and vibrant vistas. Our bodies will no longer be rigid, but will become soft and delicate. There are no boundaries when we dance and merge with the vast universe. Observe dancers, and you will notice they become a phenomenon of energy. Their bodies are not just frames of flesh and bone. They are alive, living more joyfully than ever. Only when you truly dance can you feel this. All worries disappear, and we become children again, returning to a time when our innocent heads did not know how to create problems for our lives. Conclusion: real life begins when there is nothing to resolve. Live normally, live happily, and don't try to create serious problems for yourself. This is all you need to do. Every time you need to create a problem, you will inevitably have to solve it. But if you solve it, you will face 1,000 more problems that arise. You must be mindful to escape the trap of yourself from the very first step. When you encounter problems, stay firm and do not dive into them. Stay calm and do something to release the energy that risks freezing due to pain. Quickly bring your energy back to the universal source. The ancients did not have many problems. I had the opportunity to meet a group of people from a wild tribe in India. They said they never dreamed. Freud would find this incredible. They don't dream, but if they do, very rarely, they dream of their villages praying to God. In reality, dreaming means that something is wrong. The tribe never dreams because they leave nothing in their minds while sleeping. Every moment of the present is precious. Don't worry about tomorrow. What you cling to will be reflected in your dreams. You have been thinking all day. That stream of thought shows that you have used too much energy, more than necessary. It means you have lost your real life. When you use too much energy, the new energy is wasted. Don't be someone who always wastes it like this. Use your energy perfectly for today. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Don't worry about tomorrow. Constant worry about some future only shows that you are not at peace in the present. You cannot find joy in the present. That is the problem. If we truly live according to our pure inner being, that ego we misunderstand will completely disappear. Life doesn't need to know about the existence of any ego. It is just life, life, and life. A simple, unadorned life. Life without the self, without a center, without a condition of separation. We inhale, and life enters us. We exhale, and we enter life. There is no separation. We eat fruits, and nature enters us. When we die, we return to the soil and become food for nature. Life is a single flow that is always in motion. It enters us and then passes through us. In fact, it is not that it enters us, but rather that it always passes through. We don't really exist. Only the flow of life exists in its complexity and its flow of energy, and in the millions of joys it brings to humanity. Once we understand this, we see it as the only law to explain everything.